Mankind and the elements. For some, it's an uncomfortable bond.
Good job.
For others, when weather strikes, inspiration begins.
There are so many people in life, they forget to dream because they're afraid to fail.
These are the people who challenge nature, seek out its limits, reveal its secrets, and embrace its awesome power. In this episode, we'll meet two pilots who circle the globe by the power of the sun.
Good job.
Climbers unafraid to leap into nature's abyss. And a man who turns high-altitude snowfall into giant works of art. These pioneers of the great outdoors ahead on That's Amazing.
There are so many people in life, they forget to dream because they're afraid of going out of their comfort zone.
13 years ago, two enterprising pilots shared a dream to achieve the impossible. Their goal? To build the first solar-powered plane to fly around the world, ushering in an aviation future free of fossil fuels and pollution.
Our goal is to simply demonstrate that it's feasible.
Tango X-ray.
Their plan was ambitious: to cross the globe in 17 legs over the course of a year, logging 25,000 miles. Taking turns in the cockpit, co-pilots Bertrand Piccard and Andre Borschberg knew that they would face technical and operational challenges.
We have to go back.
While battling weather and the elements.
It has been really a difficult moment.
In an unprecedented bid for adventure and glory.
When I was a child, all the people I knew were explorers, adventurers, and astronauts.
You know, when I was a boy, I read a lot of books about the pilots who opened the lines, basically discovered the world through airplanes.
He's determined to succeed this time. He has spent...
My grandfather was the first man in the stratosphere, inventing the pressurized capsule. And then my father made the deepest dive ever, touching the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest spot on Earth, and showing that the deepest trenches in the oceans had to be protected.
But I was fascinated by the people who tried something new, something different.
I thought exploration was the only way to live. I flew non-stop around the world in a balloon. We burned almost 4 tons of propane gas. It was pollution. And I was thinking, how can I do it with no fuel? And this is how the dream of Solar Impulse started. Fly in a solar-powered airplane that produces its own electricity with the sun, store the electricity in batteries, so you can fly through the night, fly to the next sunrise forever.
And when I met Bertrand 13 years ago, I immediately had the impression that my life was crossing something extremely important.
I found that André was the missing part of me, and I was the missing part of him. He's the engineer, entrepreneur, jet fighter pilot. I'm a medical doctor. I'm an explorer. So I asked him if he would agree to partner with me to do it. And he accepted immediately. Together, we could be the complete human being. It's a very difficult airplane to fly. Maybe the most difficult airplane in the world to fly because of its huge wingspan, very lightweight, and sensitivity to turbulence. So this you have to master completely.
So at the beginning, you just over-control it, it's a disaster. Using the simulator allowed us really to get the feeling about the personality of this airplane, to know how to handle it.
And I had the clearance from the tower.
You are clear to proceed.
And I could put full throttle, no noise from the engines, and the plane taking off. And I'm just looking to stay in the air as long as I can. No limit. When we travel, it takes 3 days to fly where other people would fly with a jet plane in 8 hours. But you know that you can stay there forever. And what is magical is to look at the sun to look at the propellers on both sides, to see them turning without noise and without pollution, and to think, I'm in a film of science fiction. It cannot be true, but it is true. So as soon as André can put full power on the 4 electrical engines, the round the world will start. And I repeat, always, it's an attempt. The Round the World with Solar Impulse 2 started in March 2015. André and I, we took turns in the cockpit. Prince Albert is next to me, and he will give the official go, and then the adventure will start, my friend.
It's a great pleasure to wish you all the best for this fantastic crossing of the Pacific. So you are clear to proceed with the takeoff procedures.
As soon as I took off from Japan, one important equipment failed. And immediately the engineers told me that I had to return to Japan to fix it. But I looked at it completely differently. That was the first time that the weather was improving over the Pacific.
I would say we have to go back as we have the choice.
The engineers never understood that. They never understood why I was taking this risk. Some of them wanted to resign immediately, and I decided to continue.
There's only so much we can do to support you from here, from the ground. You will be on your own.
Let's go for it, and thank you for helping me, and thank you for helping us. We strongly believe it's not a gamble.
It has been really a difficult moment. Do we go? We don't go. But the weather is good. The plane flies well. It's worth trying.
I did meditation. I couldn't sleep. And slowly at sunrise, I could throw this emotion overboard, and I could go back to what I've been dreaming about, to enjoy these days I was over the Pacific Ocean.
I don't know how many records we were setting in this flight, and it's the most difficult flight of the whole journey around the world that we succeeded.
Exploration is not only when you are successful and you raise the flag of victory. It's through all these moments where you have the impression to lose control.
The Solar Impulse 2 mission started in Abu Dhabi with many stopovers across Asia first, over the Pacific, across the United States, over the Atlantic, across the Mediterranean Sea, to get back here in the Middle East.
I crossed the finish line over Abu Dhabi, and I had 1 hour and a half in the air waiting before landing. I could be in the full emotion of the success, but still in the full emotion of the adventure.
And at that moment I thought, everything is possible. Everything is possible. Why don't we dream more? Why don't we try more?
And a few hours ago, I had to open the door of the cockpit, I had to land, and this flight around the world became memories.
What we did here was really pioneering work. And that's the industry slowly is understanding the potential of these technologies. In 10 years, you will use electric airplanes. Maybe not solar, this will take more time, but certainly electric.
If you have an impossible goal, the people who are going to support you are pioneers.
Making drawings on land on quite a large scale is something people have been doing for thousands of years. I'm Simon Beck, and I make drawings in the snow. started as a bit of fun. I started doing it as an easier alternative to hiking up the mountain when I wanted some exercise and didn't feel quite energetic enough to hike up the mountain. It's a very temporary and unpredictable thing. You're very much at the mercy of the weather and the weather forecast. And the best results are obtained by waiting until conditions are right and try and finish it in one day. So what you're looking for is a fine sunny day forecast for tomorrow and a not too bad day forecast for today. So you tend to make it today in the hope of getting a photograph tomorrow.
We might just about get it done by sundown, so fingers crossed we'll get a good result.
A ballpark estimate of footsteps, about 5,000 steps in an hour, between 1 and 2 per second. So a big drawing, 2 hours measuring, 8 hours work, you're looking at 40,000 steps. You're starting with a drawing on a piece of paper, or else a drawing in your mind. Just treating it a bit like an orienteering map. You're just going a certain distance in a certain direction, determining distances by counting paces. It's a very physical exercise. It's equivalent to a long day's walking in the hills when you make one of these big drawings. It's beyond what most people would be able to do in one day. It's quite a task. I often get asked to compare it with making drawings on beaches on the sand. The advantage of snow is that there's not the time limit. It's not like sort of game over when the tide comes in. The great drawback, of course, is you can't walk on it without making a mark. The ideal snow is about so deep and really soft and powdery with a really firm surface underneath it. That means you can walk through it quite easily and you can walk all day without getting too tired. You're never quite sure how it's going to look, so there's always a bit of sort of fingers crossed when you actually finally see it from above for the first time. At the moment, I'm just about the only person in the world doing anything like it.
To be able to be doing science while you're out there on a surfboard, it's just such a fleeting moment. It's incredible to actually be able to do it.
Smart fin is a surfboard fin. You clip it on the bottom of your board, you go out for your surf session. It has technology that measures ocean pH, salinity, ocean temperature, and very detailed wave characteristics. So there will be an enormous amount of data. The reason these parameters are important is because they're shifting directly as a result of climate change. We had detailed information about the deep ocean, but very limited accurate information about the near shore. Satellites can't be really accurate with data in that narrow zone. And the other way is ocean buoys, and they're just not deployed at the coast. Bingo. SmartFin can fill that gap.
Collecting oceanic data is a very time-consuming, expensive process. This is like, you just need to know how to surf. The data moves from your fin to your phone, and then from your phone it goes up to our servers where everything's processed.
So we've got a test tank set up now. As a scientist, it's pretty exciting to be able to get data over these different time and space scales. The fact that you can go out and surf and contribute to understanding what's actually happening out there is incredible.
Surfers are very influential and care deeply about the environment and want to be talking about it. So SmartFin is just a tool to do that in a more concrete way. Every place in the world sounds unique. These soundscapes tell us a story about that place. They tell us the ways in which global warming is beginning to change the natural soundscape. Just before the sun rises at first light is the dawn chorus. The birds begin to sing, and the insects and the amphibians, and that's the time of day to go out and listen. I'm a soundscape ecologist, and I record animals for a living. This is Sugarloaf State Park. Every spring, I can probably be found there once a week, recording in the same spot, using the same kind of equipment, so that I can repeat these recordings over and over again and compare them. And I have quite an archive of material which shows over time this habitat has been changing pretty radically as a result of global warming and the California drought. The first recording, made in 2004, shows a very robust habitat with a signature of a stream. In 2014, things were changing radically. It was already the second year of a major drought in California. And in 2015, we had what I call a silent spring. The question arises, what is it that these soundscapes are telling us, these biophonies are telling us? My guess is that global warming is playing a role in this because spring is coming 2 weeks earlier than it normally does, certainly than when it did 10 years ago. That's one of the things that is so unique about my library is we can go back to these places and we can compare currently what they sound like with what they sounded like 20, 30, 40 years ago. Over 50% of my collection comes from habitats that are so radically altered, they're either altogether silent or can no longer be heard in their original form. Here's an example from Costa Rica. That's before logging, this is after. Same spot. This is a coral reef, Vanuatu in Fiji. Part of it is dying and part of it is still living. Here's what the living part sounds like. Here's what the dying part sounds like. Hardly any fish sounds. We really don't know what this means in the long run. In the short run, we're beginning to lose these soundscapes because the habitats are just changing so radically, and we're partly to blame for that. When I first began to record almost 50 years ago, I would go out into the field and just put on a pair of earphones and sit and listen because it made me feel good. It made me aware of the living world around me, and so I want to do anything that does that for me.
Everyone says that I'm mad, and they ask me that question, what draws me into the ice? And what amazes me is how many people follow.
High in the mountains of southern Africa, there are 15 fearless swimmers competing in one of the most extreme races on Earth. With no wetsuits, no protection, they must swim a single kilometer in water cold enough to kill them. They call it a race, but most would call it insanity. As founder Ram Barkai will tell you, the members of the International Ice Swimming Association don't just battle to the finish, they're fighting to stay alive.
Swimming cold water has become my passion. Okay, we need another task force for these ones, eh? The ice was the icing on the cake. I find the ice extreme. I'm attracted to extreme challenges. No doubt, swimming in ice is a dangerous sport. It's not adrenaline junkie, polar bear type of experience. You actually have to swim 1 kilometer extremely fast in water of under 5 degrees, in just Speedo, goggles and a cap. These are the rules. I founded the International Ice Swimming Association. I'd love it to become a proper international recognized sport.
It's a double hit physiologically. It's an ice swim, which is challenging, and you're at altitude. Most of you have not been at altitude before.
When we're in Africa, in the mountain of Lesotho, and we found ice, and we're having the national South African Ice Championship.
Nowhere in southern Africa you're going to find water 5 degrees or below except for here.
Last year we had about 13 national championships like this. We have now swimmers in 28 countries around the world.
We're doing an ice swim in Africa, which is a bit ridiculous if you ask anyone. We also think it's ridiculous.
It's a massive mental challenge to get in that water and to perform physically for an extended period of time. To keep going takes a lot of mind power, and that's what I love. I love pushing the boundaries in these conditions.
It's not a sport where you have to be lean, mean and beautiful to win. You have to have around 20% body fat. You have to be fit, you have to train, so your body and your mind know how to deal with the shock. Panic is the #1 killer.
Initially, you can't tell if the water is very hot or very cold. It almost burns. The first 3 minutes is painful, and then you sort of settle in and everything goes numb.
Their body temperature starts to drop. Getting into this water poses the hazard of hypothermia to the athlete.
It causes havoc in your body, to your blood pressure, to your heart rate, to your oxygen, to your brain.
There's only one thing that goes through your mind: breathe. The ice takes your breath away, and if you don't control it, you can get into the world of trouble.
The average time in the water is 15 to 20 minutes, which is still safe. It's a hugely mental sport. For me, it's mind over matter.
It's not you racing against someone else, it's about you against the ice and the cold, and basically competing against your own mind.
Cold starts to affect the function of the nervous system, and so confusion, delirium sometimes happens. The athletes can start to hallucinate, or they can have amnesia.
If you feel dizzy and disorientated, you should get out. It's such a hard decision to make, you know, you're so close to finish.
As you come out of the water, the brain starts releasing blood from the core. That process is what we call the after drop. In 10 minutes, and suddenly your core body temperature can drop from 34 to 30, and that causes a havoc. If you haven't been there, it's a scary experience.
Good job. Cover my legs.
We have a proper ICU, doctors and recovery unit to make sure that no one goes over the edge. It's literally like going up the roller coaster, you know, that feeling, slowly, 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 and suddenly you get there. And when you get there, you see people's eyes go like, we call it the devil's look. They know everything what's going on. They hear everything, they just can't respond. You are in a massive sort of tunnel vision focused on hanging in there.
You know, we want some more hot chocolate, eh?
Bit of life coming back into me. I don't know if that's a good thing though, because it's all cold. I'm starting to turn the corner, so I'm feeling better about life. Now I want to live.
After the dust has settled, you feel like a champion.
Before they start swimming, everyone asks himself, why am I doing this? What am I trying to prove to myself? Guys, well done to all of you. I know it wasn't easy, and I know that not everyone finished. I think it's part of the process. Then after I finish, I can't wait for the next adventure. And I'm high for days. My big dream is to get it to the Winter Olympic Games as a sport. It'll be my legacy. The beauty of what we're doing here today is to show that if there is a will, there's a way.
I was the snowflake consultant on the movie Frozen. They wanted to get all the snowflakes right, and so they asked me, you know, how they grow. And I was very pleased. When the movie came out, they all looked like real snowflakes. None of them were 8-sided, they were all 6-sided, and so good job. So, my name is Ken Liebrecht, and I'm a professor of physics here at Caltech, and I also grow snowflakes. Well, I got into physics very early. I've been doing that most of my life. Maybe about 20 years ago, I just got interested in how crystals grow, and that sort of led me to ice and to snowflakes. We still don't exactly understand why they look like they do, so it's kind of fun to think about. To make a snowflake in the lab, you start with water and water vapor, and you got to get everything cold, and basically start a crystal growing, and I'll kind of blow moist air down onto it, and it just absorbs water vapor from the air and starts to grow, and I can do this on a piece of glass, and so just watch it grow. I'm the only one that makes snowflakes like this in the lab. When you start to look really carefully at how a snowflake works, you find you don't understand it, and there's a lot going on. You dig deeper, there's more and more stuff, and it's really very interesting to me anyway. I love to go out and sort of hunt for snowflakes because these beautiful works of art are just falling all over, and you pick a few of them up and photograph them, and the rest of them you just trample on. At the end of the day, I'm trying to understand how atoms and molecules fit together to form crystals, and by studying snowflakes, slowly you figure things out that are useful. One snowflake at a time.
In my career, I've never met a single person with his passion, ever. And there's not even a close second.
I get bloody. I put my body into the capture, the hunt.
The guy will go anywhere, climb any mountain to catch a fish in a stream. He's doing basically the work of a biologist just as sort of a volunteer.
Science is important because it's going to help us protect more populations of these fish that are somewhere only in one creek, some are in one river. It may be just another trout, but it's a special trout, and they're all special to me. Through Mars collection ditch. Look at this baby right here. Look at that sucker. My name is Steve McMillan, trout enthusiast. It is truly my goal to catch a fish at every stream in Nevada. There's over 600. I've been working on this for years. I'm a little over halfway there. Very few people understand the Nevada that I see.
When most people think of Nevada, a general picture comes into mind of hot, dry desert. We're the most mountainous state in the U.S. In these mountains, we've got a number of streams that are primarily fed with snowmelt runoff.
Nevada is actually home of some of the most diverse native species of trout on Earth. It's definitely a passion. It's definitely an obsession. It's both. And there's probably 4 other words I haven't invented yet to describe what I think about this fishing and what it does to me.
Steve McMillan, what's the first impression you get when you meet him? Nice.
That looks like a brookie there.
Yeah, it does. It's almost difficult to understand him on the phone because he's so excited about fish and he talks so fast. The one word to sum up Steve is passion.
I work in the big city, work long hours. I take a lot of work home with me. I have a lot of stress at work. But on weekends, I find myself in these hills, walking long mountain trails to go up there and try and catch a fish. I feel like I own the place, and many times I do own the place.
About 4 or 5 years ago was the Nevada Native Slam program, a challenge to anglers in Nevada to catch every native species. That includes Lahontan cutthroat, the Bonneville cutthroat, Yellowstone cutthroat, red band, bull trout, and mountain whitefish.
So I began trekking the state to catch these 6 species.
It's not easy. You need to travel great lengths to catch some of these species of fish, and they're in extremely remote, rugged locations. Well, Steve did it in 2.5 months.
For me to be the first to achieve it, it was very humbling. The last fish was probably, for most people, the easiest one to catch, but for me, I drove almost 3,000 miles over 5 trips to catch it, and when I caught that thing, it was like winning the Super Bowl. My fishing technique is called ultralight spinning. I'm using small weight lines, usually 2 to 4 pound tests. I'm using a very small pole, small reel. I can tell you that I go fishing, I don't always go catching. I'm learning every time I go out. 20, 30 years ago, some of these places I could have never caught fish. I never did. And I've learned how to be more patient with the fish. I learned to be more subtle. I've learned to read what time to fish, morning, evening. I do watch moon phases. It does affect the fishing. And for me, it's basically finding that spot, knowing they're there, watching and observing instead of just being in a rush. I practice a technique I've named CPR, capture, photograph, release. Here we go. And get a good shot for posterity.
He documents everything that happens that day, and he gets stream temperature, air temperature, lengths and weights of fish, and pictures of that, and he'll prepare a report and send it to us. He'll be out at a stream that we haven't been to in 50, 60 years, and he'll grab fin clips for us. And that fin sample is used for genetic analysis to determine if that population is genetically pure or hybridized. He has found species of fish in places that we had no idea about. So he's doing the work of a biologist just as sort of a volunteer.
The final icing on the cake is taking that fish, getting a kiss on the forehead, putting it back in the water once it swim off, and thanking the fish for being kind enough to give me a chance to document its life without killing it.
Drought, specifically in a state as dry as Nevada, can be very problematic. We're seeing, the wetted length of a number of our streams decreasing dramatically.
It's recording what I think is a disappearing part of our heritage. These trout are disappearing due to global warming, efforts of mankind. I believe that in my lifetime, half these places I've caught fish will be gone. As a kid, I had a very large interest in biology, so it's kind of the school child biologist coming through as an adult. It doesn't pay for itself. Hundreds of miles of gas, sometimes thousands of miles on a weekend to catch a fish, but to me, that's what drives me. The rewards of having biologists and people that are enthusiasts contact me and say, I saw your story, I've read about you. It makes me feel like a superstar, and all I'm is just a guy going fishing, and I know my story is pretty lame to most people, but to me, it's the top of the hill. It's the glory.
The largest insect migration in the world ends each year in Michoacan, Mexico. Cold winters are deadly to these beautiful butterflies. So when the chill of winter descends on the northern half of their range across the United States and Canada, they take flight en masse in search of a warmer winter home. An estimated 100 million monarch pass the cold months of the winter hibernation period in the towering trees of this beautifully protected nature reserve in western Mexico. On their incredible journey, the butterflies travel an average of 2,500 miles, relying on air currents and thermal drafts to carry them long distances. The monarch is the only butterfly known to migrate the same way that birds do. At night, when the temperature drops, they cluster together in tight groups to conserve heat and energy. This survival tactic produces some of the most stunning formations across the insect world. While canyoneering is a brand new sport, it starts with an old-school leap of faith. Its participants hold their breath as they rappel down seemingly bottomless canyons formed by centuries of wind and water. Through oncoming waterfalls, around blind turns, and dangling over cliffs, the sport's pioneers take on natural wonders the rest of us would never dare. Kit Turner is one of those pioneers. He and his team are about to enter Canada's Box Canyon for the first time, a place that will make their knees quake.
I got started running canyons in Hawaii. I started rock climbing and eventually made the progression into canyoneering. Jenna's my girlfriend. She's a Hawaii girl, born and raised. We've been dating now for almost 2 years. We met climbing.
Kit always pushes me to go outside my comfort level a lot.
When you're talking about canyoneering, the process of descending a canyon, you have to decide how much rope you want to bring along. You want to decide if the rock quality is going to be good enough to set up anchors for the rappels. You also have to find a good crew that is good under pressure.
You're just dealing with lots of complexities of nature, rocks, waterfall. It's just constant problem solving, using your brain, using your body.
Canyons are very fickle and they're very weather dependent. Conditions in a canyon can change from one day to the next, from one season to the next. For this particular canyon, Box Canyon, you have to cross the Squamish River.
Kayaking across the river, it was an ordeal because you just really have to paddle your heart out just to cut across that current. And then you have to make a sharp U-turn into this little tiny beachfront.
So once you cross the river, there's a mosquito-infested hike into kind of the bottom of the Box Canyon stream. And then you hike upstream for a while before you get to the technical part of the canyon, which involves rope.
The first thought was, is this man-made? This is not real. It looks like a Disneyland ride.
1, 2, 3. Box Canyon is considered a Class C canyon. Most of the rappels, if not all the rappels, you're going straight through the water course, which is straight through the waterfall, and you're getting pounded by the water. It's hitting you in your face. You're slipping, you're sliding all over the place.
My favorite thing about dropping into a canyon is the rush of getting over the edge.
This is my passion, man. Like, I don't get more pumped than when I'm in a canyon.
It kind of adds that element of excitement where you can't see where you're gonna end up.
When you're on the edge as an adventurer, when you feel like I could die doing this right now, but I can't back down, and then you do it, it's like the most amazing feeling. I don't get the people that are like, why would you do that? I'm just like, why not? If you don't get it, you don't get it.
For someone who's looking at doing what we did, which is dropping everything and pursuing your dreams, I would say that it's definitely a leap of faith, and maybe you crash and burn, but the highs are incredible, and you're never gonna get those amazing moments and see if you can really achieve your dreams if you don't try.